New assessments reveal Iran's strike capacity still strong, contradicting White House victory claims. Despite weeks of bombardment, Tehran's underground silos and launchers remain largely operational. Air campaign hits thousands of sites, but deep-buried launch systems defy destruction. Decoys and underground caches leave Washington unsure which missile sites are truly gone. Iran is reportedly restoring underground missile bunkers within hours of being struck, according to U.S. intelligence reports. The intelligence adds that Tehran has excavated damaged silos and quickly returned them to operational status. Washington remains uncertain about how many missile launchers have truly been destroyed, as Iran has employed decoys to conceal real targets. Despite sustained strikes by the US and Israel, Iran has managed to retain significant missile stockpiles and mobile launch systems. US officials have questioned whether the extensive bombardment has meaningfully degraded Iran's overall missile capabilities. Intelligence sources warn that Iran still possesses enough ballistic missiles to threaten regional targets, including Israel and neighboring countries. Even after weeks of US-Israeli strikes, intelligence suggests Iran's core missile network remains intact underground, not smashed on the surface. Insiders say Washington can only truly prove that roughly one-third of Iran's missile stockpile has been destroyed, leaving a big question mark over the rest. Another third is simply unknown, which likely means Tehran still holds a sizable arsenal that can be rolled out and fired when needed. So even after heavy bombardment, could Iran still be sitting on a large reserve of missiles, carefully hidden where US satellites cannot easily see? Analysts warn that if this war pauses without a decisive result, Tehran can repair damaged launch systems and bring much of its missile machine back online. Military experts quoted in European reports say some of Iran's Granite bunkers can withstand even the most powerful American air-delivered strikes. Their biggest concern is no longer the smashed buildings we see on TV, but what still hides hundreds of meters below those craters. One flagship site, the Imam Hussein base near Yazd, is reported to be carved deep into the Shirkuh granite formation in central Iran. That granite is counted among the hardest rocks on Earth, making deep penetration extremely difficult even for advanced bunker-buster weapons. Military analyst Timothy Lawn has stressed that these are not ordinary bunkers but fully engineered underground fortresses with layered protection. He describes an automated underground rail system that links missile assembly halls, storage depots, and support tunnels like a hidden subway. That hidden network reportedly reaches multiple exits on different sides of the mountain, so launchers can emerge where enemies least expect. The same complex is said to be able to shelter bombers or missile carriers and reload them safely inside the hardened mountain shell. Timothy Lawn said, and I quote, "Between the surface and the deep facilities lies a 440-meter thick dead zone of solid granite where any bomb's explosive energy completely fades away before it can reach the important parts. Inside the mountain runs an automated underground rail system like a hidden subway that connects missile assembly areas. Huge ammo storage, and 3 to 10 different exits on various sides of the mountain, letting launchers roll out, fire quickly, and disappear back underground behind heavy armored doors in seconds." Unquote. Analysts note that Shirkuh-type granite can withstand far higher pressures than ordinary reinforced concrete, blunting the shock of even big penetrating bombs. Public data on the US GBU-57 Super Bunker Buster suggests it can penetrate only several meters into very hard rock before detonating. By contrast, Iran's most critical missile tunnels are reported to sit hundreds of meters, sometimes over 500 meters, below the surface. That gap between bomb reach and tunnel depth leaves a huge survival buffer, even after the heaviest penetrating strikes hit the mountain. Lawn has described the Yazd fortress as a guarantee of strategic survival, built up over 4 decades and only fully activated in 2026. One option floated by experts is to hammer tunnel entrances and ventilation shafts, trying to choke and block access even if the core stays intact. Such strikes could slow Iran's launch tempo and resupply, buying time for diplomacy or other moves, even if the underground missile network itself survives. Yet specialists caution that as long as those mountain fortresses remain structurally sound, Iran can still fire, reload, and endure a long war of attrition. Iran's underground strategy is now emerging as the single biggest obstacle to a clean US military victory, and perhaps the real battlefield Trump fears most. US intelligence now assesses that Iran's missile and drone power is far from destroyed, warning that weeks of strikes have not broken its ability to hit back across the region. The assessment says roughly half of Iran's missile launchers are still intact even after weeks of heavy US and Israeli strikes on its military infrastructure. CNN reported this US intelligence warning, citing multiple anonymous sources who described Iran's remaining firepower as a serious ongoing threat. The same assessment says Iran still has thousands of one-way attack drones in its arsenal, giving it plenty of capacity for further waves of strikes. One source warned that Iran is still very much poised to wreak havoc throughout the Middle East, with enough missiles and drones left to sustain the conflict. Roughly half of Iran's missile launchers remain intact despite 5 weeks of US-Israeli strikes. Thousands of one-way attack drones have survived, leaving around 50% of Iran's drone arsenal still in play. A large share of Iran's coastal defense cruise missiles is intact, keeping the Strait of Hormuz under threat. Iran's launchers and cruise missiles have been moved underground into tunnels and caves, complicating US targeting. The IRGC Navy retains roughly half its power, with hundreds, if not thousands, of small boats and unmanned vessels left. An intelligence source says Iran can still wreak absolute havoc throughout the entire region despite heavy losses. The intel report says Iran's military has been degraded and key leaders killed, including Khamenei and security chief Ali Larijani. CENTCOM says US forces have hit more than 12,300 targets inside Iran since the war began, underscoring the scale of the ongoing air and missile campaign. Pentagon Chief Pete Hegseth says Iranian ballistic missile and kamikaze drone attacks are down about 90%, pointing to what he calls major progress in degrading Iran's strike power. Pentagon spokesperson Sean Parnell has dismissed reports about Iran's remaining capabilities as completely wrong, insisting Tehran is far weaker than some intelligence leaks suggest. Israeli officials put the share of Iran's remaining operational launchers even lower, estimating that only about 20 to 25% are still able to fire after weeks of strikes. Iran's air defenses struck at least 2 US military aircraft in a single day, challenging claims of US dominance over Iranian skies. Iranian forces reportedly shot down an F-15E fighter and an A-10 Warthog, while earlier losses included numerous MQ-9 Reaper drones.